this first session, we're mostly going to focus on the 4 key functions, but I am going to talk a little bit about some of the general functionality in TouchStone. What I really like to do is to discuss the technically how to use TouchStone with whatever the subject is for the webinar, but I also talk about strategically, like what to be thinking about, techniques for creating your org chart or creating your 4 key functions. This hour in your entire week is an hour that hopefully you will dedicate to working on your businesses or working on your department or working on your position. And what I mean by that is building the documentation, the step-by-step, strategizing and creating processes inside of TouchStone. It'd even be great is if you would block off the next hour after this one, and then whatever we've talked about in the session that's inspired you or you want to go back and relook at or you want to move forward on, do that. Spend an hour just working on it. And over the next 7 weeks, if you do that, if you spend this hour and then the next hour, whatever time that would be for you, working on inside of TouchStone, you're going to make significant progress in building out your processes over the 7 weeks. So maybe have this be your time, that you're going to spend building and working on your business. All of us have learned hard lessons given what's going on in the world right now, and small business is suffering a lot. The building of processes is really essential to the success and the longevity of your business. Can't even tell you how many users have contacted us and said, thank God I had built all my processes because now I can replicate my business anywhere. And I know that that's not possible for every industry, but for a lot of people who use TouchStone, it is. And then I've had an equal amount of people come to me and say, help, I need to build this now, and I wish I would have done it later. So that's just a plug to get you to start thinking about how can you get creative in your business and how can you use TouchStone to really help through this difficult time with the economy right now. All right, so this is called the dashboard, and this is what you see when you first log into TouchStone. Anybody that you've given access to, when they log in, they're going to see at a minimum a control panel assigned if you've created that for them. So at the end of the session, I'm going to highlight 2 processes that are new to our process library. We have a new library called the Virtual Process Library. And I'm going to show you how, if you do have employees working from home, how they can log into a control panel right here, access work that they need to do, fill out checklists, fill out forms, and then you or their manager can run a report here and see what they did that day. So here again, this is the dashboard. When you first log in, this is what you'll always see. The purpose of the dashboard is for the using and the managing of processes. So you use the processes here. So nothing is developed here in the control panel. This is about the using of what you've created, the processes you've created. And then if you're a manager, this area here is where you can view and see into what your employees are doing in their control panels. Also, you'll see this area called public processes. There's going to be a session where I talk extensively about this, but just in a nutshell, the public processes are processes that you have decided are company-wide information. So they're meant to be used by every employee. They're the documents, the tools, the forms they need for HR, all those things where employees come to you and say, where's this? Where's that? I can't find it on the network. Is this the most updated version? So anything like that that's company-wide information, announcements can all go here in this public area. All the way to the upper right-hand corner of your screen, there's this button here called Resource Center. When I click the Resource Center, it opens up our help desk. So hopefully, people who are new to TouchStone may not know that this exists, but hopefully those of you who have had it for a while know what this is. This has got everything you'd need to know about using TouchStone. So the user guides area here has a step-by-step for everything, and it's done in an outlined format with little videos. There's a webinar section that has trainings in it on how to use TouchStone. There's videos on how to use processes from the library and all kinds of stuff. What I want to point out specifically here is up here under Support Plus. This is a quick way to get a hold of us right here under Contact Support. Any of your employees who are using TouchStone and have a question or a problem, or they just need to be trained in how to use it, if you go here and hit Contact Support, then we'll set up a meeting with them and train them in how to use TouchStone if you want to, or point them to videos in the Resource Center that would answer questions they would have or allow them to watch training videos. We're right here in this live technical training, so all of you have already signed up for this. TouchStone University is another way to get free training, and this is Tuesdays. These are a little shorter sessions than today. They're about 30 minutes, but they go related to specific topics that are relevant to TouchStone. So next week, starting April 14th, is the first technical or TouchStone University class, and it goes every Tuesday. So this one's on how to train people using TouchStone, how to communicate using TouchStone, performance reviews, recruiting and hiring. So think about joining in for these if if you're interested. I'm just going to go back to TouchStone. All the way to the upper right-hand corner here, there's a wheel icon, and this wheel icon will take you to account administration. So if you're not an administrator, you won't see that wheel icon, but this is how you get to the admin area if you are an administrator, and this is where you can set up users. During the year 2020, given what's happening to small business everywhere, we're giving everybody unlimited users. So if you haven't added employees yet, or all of your employees, then go here to upgrade account and upgrade to as many as you need. And you won't be charged any more for those. So everybody gets unlimited users, and we're doing this to kind of support people and, more to the point, getting you to use TouchStone more. And when your employees are using it and your managers are using it, then it has a higher chance of actually being successful in your business. I'm just going to go back here to the dashboard. So let's talk about the 4 key functions. If you go over here to the left, you're going to see the side navigation bar right here. Dashboard's always at the top. Next is the 4 key functions, and that's how I get to the 4 key functions. Then you'll see the org chart, reports, and the search button. So to access the 4 key functions, you just click right here where it says 4 key functions. Then I'm going to see this drop down of the 4 key functions. The 4 key functions represents your business as a whole. So if you were looking down on your business and you chopped it into 4 parts, so you put an X through it, so you had 4 sections, this is what the sections are. This is a representation of those sections. Guiding the business is for strategic and managerial processes, so things you use to guide your company. Getting the business is for your marketing strategy, advertising, sales, so getting new business in the door. Running is your office processes. So it's human resources, administration, finance, and then doing is your operations or your service delivery. When you click any one of these 4 key functions, it will take you to that function. So this window that appears when I click guiding, and now I can see guiding doing over here to the left still, and I know I'm inside of guiding because this is bolded now, but then I can also see it in like a folder format this way. So I know I'm in guiding because this little box is illuminated here, and then I could go to getting from here just by click. I could go to running by clicking, and I can go to doing. So it's giving you 2 views, and you can navigate between the 4 across here or also here. So the 4 key functions is where all of your processes are listed. So that's what its purpose is. Any process that you add to TouchStone will always be in the 4 key functions in one place or another, depending on how you've organized it. Here in the 4 key functions, we're thinking about subjects within your business, categories. We're not thinking about people and who does what. All that happens over on the organization chart. Here, you're thinking of an outline and subjects within your business and processes that represent the work that needs to get done in that category or subject area. Inside of the 4 key functions, you can create what we call sub-functions, and that's what this is right here. Employee management is a sub-function or a category within getting the business. I'm going to go all the way to the right here and hit this little button that says collapse. So what that does is it closes the process list and just shows me the sub-functions that I have. If you hit expand, then it's going to open back up again, and you can see, now I see all the processes here. So this is an easy way to see, if you have long lists of processes, this is an easy way to see the sub-functions that you've got in each area. If you have long lists of processes and you want to just look at the processes within one sub-function, you just click it, and now I see these processes that I've got in training here, but I don't see these because they're collapsed. So first thing, we're going to go across, and I'm going to explain this toolbar row. Edit function title will allow you to change the getting, doing, guiding, running terminology. So if I hit edit function title, instead of this being called guiding, I could call this management if I wanted to, or strategy and management. And then if I hit save here, then you'll see that this right here, guiding, is no longer there, and it's just called management. So if you don't like the getting, guiding, running, doing terminology, then using edit function title, you can go and change these to whatever you want them to be. What I would suggest is that you keep the general themes of the 4 key functions, those 4 areas of your business, because there's only 4. So if you were to call this sales and this advertising, well, you're going to run out of functions. So change the terminology if you want to, but keep them the same theme. Right here under the sub-functions tab, this is how you create and control the sub-functions. So to create a sub-function, I just click create here. I type in the name of the sub-function. So you think of a category of work within the overall key function, and then you hit save. So it's super easy to add sub-functions. Collapse it here so you can see it right down here. You can also reorder the sub-functions just by dragging and dropping them. So I just put my mouse on this and then pulled it up or pulled it down. So you can reorder them into any order you want by drag and drop. If I go back here to sub-functions, I can edit a sub-function just by clicking edit, and then I choose the sub-function that I want to edit, and then I would retype in the name I want to change it. So super easy to edit function titles, and then you can also delete a function title. If you're deleting a sub-function that's got processes in it, you'll want to move those processes to another sub-function before you delete it. It's not going to make them all disappear. You'll just get an error message saying you can't delete this because it's got processes in it. So everything relating to the sub-functions is right here under the sub-function tab. Each of your accounts, when you first started them, came with 2 sub-functions within each function. You can keep those, or you can edit and change them. But I just want to give you a quick idea of some typical sub-functions that I would see inside of every key function. So here in guiding the business, these 4 are pretty typical. Employee management is definitely important because that's part of guiding the business. It's the processes you use to manage all your employees. Strategy, business strategy, also a good sub-function. Board and meetings, or board of director and meetings, and then training. So you don't have to have these 4, but these are pretty common. Ones I probably would always see are these 2, employee management and business. You could put these 2, any processes that are in meetings or trainings, and have them be under these 2 if you wanted to, just to condense them and only have 2. There's no right and wrong for the sub-functions. They're purely there to help you organize your processes. So that's their purpose. So to add more organization, have more sub-functions. Inside of getting the business, which I'm going to next here, I'll just collapse this. Sales, important sub-function. Advertising, also important. Marketing strategy, another good sub-function. So these are for the strategic marketing processes. Sales management, so processes that are specifically related to the management of salespeople. And then I threw this one in here just for those of you who do estimating. If you're, a production company, and that can be considered a part to differentiate it from overall sales processes. These three are probably the ones I see the most. Some people like these two, but these three for sure: sales, advertising, and marketing strategy. And I'm going to go to running the business next. So remember, running your office processes. It's the overhead department. It's the support department. So here, finance obviously is an important one. Financial management, I'm going to pull this up, is just another category for financial processes. These processes would be like budgeting, cash flow, like the higher level finance things. Administration, super important. Human resources, and then information technology or IT processes. So these 4 or 5 are generally would be good for any business. What I said about guiding and getting, doesn't matter what industry you're in, these types of sub-functions and these categories for your processes are pretty common no matter what industry you're in. Now when we go here to doing, this is your operations, your service delivery, your production department. Well, this has a lot to do with your industry. So if you're a production company, then you would have, production management, or you might have categories for the types of things that you produce. If you are a service delivery, you might have client service or a process for your services. If you have materials, then maybe you need material control and warehouse. So think about the categories of work within your operations. If you had to chop it into parts, how would you categorize it? And then list out those sub-functions. If you need any help with this in the doing the business section, definitely send us a message, because we've seen every industry known to man inside of TouchStone. So we could give you some advice on typical sub-functions related to your industry. So now let's talk, I'm going to go back to guiding the business here. Let's talk about adding processes. So right here, this toolbar item is everything related to adding or getting rid of processes in the 4 key functions. So if I hit processes and I go create, now I'm prompted for the name of my process. Type in the name and then decide which sub-function it goes in. Choose a sub-function and then hit save. So super easy to add processes. If you accidentally put a process in the wrong sub-function for whatever reason, everything's here. So I'm just dragging up and dragging down. I can move these all around, super easy. To delete a process, same thing, under processes, you go delete. Now I'm going to see a list of all of my processes in alphabetical order. So you want to go to choose it where it is in the alphabet, and then just hit delete. So select the process you want to hit delete, and now that process is gone. So adding processes is obviously very easy. The only tricky part about adding processes is knowing how to title things. So you'll notice with these processes here, first thing is it follows general naming convention. So it's the first letter of every word is capitalized, this E, this P, this R, and it's a title, it's short, it's a phrase. It's usually no more than 3 words, sometimes 1 word. So when you're naming things, it's good to follow naming conventions, because then whoever's naming processes, it won't matter because everyone's following the same structure or protocol for naming things. I see accounts where people add processes and they're all caps. Every single letter is a cap, or people add processes and it's all lowercase, or people are writing them like sentences with the first letter capitalized and the rest aren't. So it's gonna, if you're having multiple people add processes and you don't decide a way to do it, then you're gonna get, it's gonna turn into a bit of a mess, and someone will have to go back and name them all. You'll also notice that in these, at least in these examples, we're suggesting subject first and the verb or adjective second. So this is employee lateness. It's not dealing with late employees or dealing with employees who are late. It's not that. It's employee lateness. So the reason you do that is because if the subject is first, when I'm thinking about, oh, where's that employee being late process, well, I'm thinking of the subject first. I don't think about an adjective or a verb first. I think of the subject first. So that's just another tip. Another thing I see often is people are writing processes in a sentence, the title in a sentence. So if I just click this process, this is the objective of the process, which is right here. So when you name something, you have this field on the process tools page, which we're on right now, to write out the purpose of the process, the objective of it. Sometimes I see people making this sentence the title. So they're thinking of the title in an action sentence or in a phrase. So if you have anyone who's done that, or you've done that, take the sentence, which is the title, and put it into this objective field. You just click and you can paste it right in here, and then rename it to something that is a title that's short and specific. Okay, I'm gonna go back here. Someone's asking a question about the color coding. The colors of the processes have to do with the status of the development of that process. So when you first type a process in and you haven't started documenting it, it's going to be red like this one. So when I click this process and we look over here, there's nothing in this process. These are all the templates that you can use to document the process with, but with this particular process, there's nothing here. So if a process title is red, that just lets you know that there's nothing in it. It's just a title right now. If the process is blue, like this one, this lets you know that there's something in this process. So if you look to the left here, some documentation has been done inside this process. And I know that because I see 3 checklists here. I see 3 forms. There's a policy note. So when the process is begun and you've added anything to it, a work plan, a checklist, then TouchStone will automatically turn it blue, which lets you know it has something inside of it. When you're finished with the process, like the documentation has been done, it's been approved, it's all ready to go, you're going to train people with it, you fill in this little box here that says process documentation completed. And then if we go back here to the 4 key functions, then that process title is now black. So this has to do with the color coding of the process, is related to the development of it. When you first type a process in, it's red. When you put something in it, it turns blue. And then you manually decide that it's done by filling in that box that says process documentation completed. Also on this screen, you can put a process in the public folder. So right here, it's been marked as complete, which turned the process title black. But here, it's put it in the public folder. So these 2 toolbar items are, you'll see when you first click the process. So if you've decided you want a process to show up on the dashboard here in the public folder, because it's company-wide, it's something people need everyone needs to access and use, it wouldn't be on 1 or 2 people's job descriptions. It would be, it's for everyone. Then fill this little box in and it'll appear here on the dashboard. And then you'll know that the process is in the public folder. You could go and look at it on the dashboard, or you could also see it here with this little P. Okay, so another thing to think about when you're naming your processes. So we're just talking about adding processes. If you've noticed, the 4 key functions is like an outline. So we have these 4 key areas, then we have the sub-functions, and then we have the processes. So if you can imagine this outline in your mind, you can see it here. The 4 key functions at the top, we drill down to sub-functions, then we drill down to processes. So when you're naming things, keep this in mind. It's not an exact science, but keep this structure hierarchy in mind, because you can see it's kind of like a flow chart where one flows to the next. Why that's important is if I had a sub-function and I called it management philosophy, well, how many processes would you really have regarding management philosophy? So in that example, if I chose this to be the sub-function, it would be too narrow, because I wouldn't have multiple processes that are related to employee philosophy. So when you're putting in the sub-functions, ask yourself, is this sub-function going to have numerous processes in it? Is it a big enough category that I'm going to have a lot of processes associated with that? And if the answer is yes, then create that sub-function. So what I'm really talking about here is, what's the difference between a sub-function and a process? And that gets even a little more complicated when we think of the tools inside of a process. So over here are the templates that you can use to document the process with. This process happens to have 2 work plans. There's one here on how to set up the employee performance review, and then here's one on how to create it from the job description. Here's 2 uploaded files. There's one for the one that you use for your the employee uses to evaluate themselves, and then there's another one that the manager uses. So the performance review is the process, and over here there are multiple parts to the performance review process. If you look here, this shows the hierarchy too. I know that doesn't make sense, but this is the key function, this is the sub-function, this is the process. And then over here are the tools inside of that process. Why this is important is when you're naming your processes, you want to, again, think about, is it a process that has a beginning and an end? It may have multiple parts to it, but those are better as work plans. So let me show you another example. So I'm in running the business now, and I'm going to go to this process. So the sub-function is finance, big category, lots of processes. And then the process is accounts payable. If I click accounts payable, there are numerous ways that you pay bills: check deposits, bank deposits, invoices, special invoices, ACH payments. So this process called accounts payable has lots of parts to it, all these parts. So I could have made a work plan or a process for every one of these work plans. I could have a process for check deposits, one for bank deposits, one for invoices. I could. But it's better to combine like things in like you're seeing here. And the reason is, if you don't do it this way, you may have 50% more processes on your 4 key functions than you really need. And the downside of having more processes is it just more is more. It just makes it complicated. More things to link to job descriptions, more things to search for. So if possible, combine like things into processes, titles, like you see here. If you have that situation I'm describing, where maybe on your 4 key functions you've got 5 processes all related to accounts payable and you want to combine them, here on the process, if you click the process and you go to a work plan, let's say I wanted to take this out and combine it into another process, there's a toolbar item right here that'll allow you to move it out of this one into another one. So if you're hearing what I'm saying, you're thinking, yeah, I do have that situation, just know that you can combine processes pretty easy, and you can also pull them apart pretty easy. Let's go back. Okay. You can also take processes out of one key function into another. And how you do that is just by drag and drop. So I'm taking this one and I put it on top of the new function I want to move it into. So now I'm moving it into getting, and now TouchStone's asking me which sub-function inside of getting do I want to move it into, and then I hit move, and it's going to take this out of running the business and move it into getting the business. So just drag and drop to move processes around. That situation might occur if you've started listing processes inside of one key function and that subject was really management or was related to sales, and now you want to reorganize them a bit. Let's talk. Okay, I think I'm going to answer this question now. This whole idea of what is a process title, what is a work plan within a process as opposed to being the process title, there's not an exact science here. It's a bit of just going for it, just practicing with it, just writing things out and then seeing how it looks to you. I can give you some pretty solid suggestions like we just went through, but in the end, it's up to you to decide what you want your processes to look like and how you want them to be organized. And again, the best way is just to take action, just to start to build something and then decide for yourself if you like it that way or not. The library right here, which we're going to go over in a minute, will give you some ideas on what process titles we think are good. And so I'll go over that in a minute. So this person's question has to do with linking processes to job descriptions. New to TouchStone, over here on the organization chart, if you've built your chart, if you select a position like this one, it takes you to the job description for that position. And the job description is made up of the processes. These are processes that the manager of operations is responsible for. So all we've done to build the job descriptions is we've looked over here at the 4 key functions using this toolbar item right here and linked processes from the 4 key functions that the operations manager is accountable for. So every process in the 4 key functions in the end is going to get linked to one job description or another on the org chart. When you link a process, you're linking the whole process. You can't link a work plan. So that's the answer to the question. If I click this collections process, there are all these tools inside of it. There's a work plan, a checklist, a couple scripts. I can't take a script and link that to a job description. I have to link the whole process. So how this is relevant to what we're just talking processes, what's a work plan, what's a process title, is it's good to think about if I'm going to link collections to the finance manager's job description, then if I also have an accounts payable clerk who also does collections, I have to link that whole process to both job descriptions because you can't go and just take a tool and link it. So this doesn't mean that the process can't be linked to both positions. It definitely can. Our work plans within it are work that one person does and the other one doesn't. Then put that into the title. So if this AR report is not done by the payables clerk, it's only done by the manager, then you have 2 options. You could pull it out and create a process just called accounts receivable report, or right here in the title of this, you could put in the position that does it. If anyone's struggling with this and wants more help, send us a message through the help desk, and someone will call you and walk through it with you and help you one-on-one. So let's talk next about the library. So the process library has example processes in it. So I'm going to go back here to what was called guiding the business. So if I hit this library drop down, you'll see 2 libraries. If you're a member of one of our resource or one of our referral partner groups, you may see an industry-specific library. So if you see more than one library when you go here, that's because you have you're a client of one of our partners who access to an industry-specific library. The general process library is always going to be at the top here. And when you go to the general process library, you'll then see a list of typical processes that are related to the key function that you're in. So we're in guiding the business here. Scroll down on this list, you're going to see processes that are related to guiding the business. So there's going to be employee management, there's going to be business strategy, there's going to be meeting processes, things related to guiding the business. If you want to access from the process library, you click this box right here, and then you just hit copy. And when you hit copy, it's going to add that process to your account right here. So let's go back and do that again. I hit the library, I agree that I see the processes. If you see any that are grayed out, that means they're already in your account. So we don't let you download them twice because we don't want you to have duplicates. Choose the process. Right here at the top, you can put it function. You can always drag and drop it to the right subfunction later, but you could choose the correct subfunction you want to add that to, and then you hit copy. Remember that every function, every key function, has its own library. So if I go here to guess, and I go library and general processes, then I'm going to see processes related to getting the business. So these are advertising, sales, marketing strategy processes. And again, you just fill in the title and hit copy. Inside of guiding, getting, and running those libraries, there are a lot of great processes that are relevant to every business and every industry. Because like I said before, those three areas of business or small business most small businesses need those same things. So these three, you're going to find a lot of great stuff that will work for your business. It's in doing where things get industry specific. So we do have a lot of like customer service type processes like complaints, satisfaction, reputation monitoring, things that are more general. We've got like workplace safety and things for production businesses. I'm going to go back here to guiding. When you download a library process, my suggestion would be that you go right to that process, like this one I just downloaded, and you look inside of it and review the documentation. So when you review it, think to yourself, is this something that we're going to be able to edit and use? And if the answer is yes, then keep it. If the answer is no, or I don't really know yet, this isn't a big priority, then I would suggest that you delete it. So when you delete a library process, it'll put it back into the library. So if I go processes right here, and I go delete, and then I'm going to look for this process I just added, and it starts with a P. I highlight it there, and then I hit delete. Now that library process is deleted from my 4 key functions, but if I go back to the library here, it is now back in the library, and I could go and download it again right here. So I'm taking a few minutes really to point this out slowly because I don't want you to be afraid to delete library processes thinking that you'll never be able to get them again. The last thing you want to do is download every library process and then just have, 50 or 60 processes in your 4 functions that you're not really sure what they are or if you're going to use them or when you're going to use them. It just, again, makes everything more complicated. This whole process of naming things is, it's not super hard, but it's complicated enough, and it doesn't need to be overcomplicated by you having all these library processes. So if you have had TouchStone for a while and you downloaded a lot of library processes initially, take a few minutes, maybe in the next hour, and just delete things that aren't necessary right now. And a good guidepost for that is think 6 months into the future and ask yourself, are we going to edit and use this process in the next 6 months? If the answer is yes, then keep it. If the answer is no, delete it. And always remember that you can go back and get it when you're ready, but for the time being, it's not in your account. Cleaning up your 4 functions like this is really useful because it'll, first of all, make you more aware account, and it'll clean things up and organize a bit. Here in Guiding the Business, there's a second library that you're going to see. It's called the Virtual Office Processes. So not all of you may be having employees work from home now, but some people are. And we've built 2 processes here that they're pretty simple processes, but extremely useful. So I'm just going to download these so I can show them to you, and I'm going to hit copy. So now here are those 2 processes. This first one is called Daily Time Logs, and it really is as simple as that. It's having employees track what they're doing all day long. And then there's one called the Daily Huddle, the second. And this is about just having a daily or a weekly meeting where teams get together over Zoom or GoToMeeting, whatever you're using, and you strategize what you're going to try to accomplish that day or that week. You can change this title to weekly. So I'm just going to click this Daily Time Logs process. So over here, there's a work plan in it, which is just a simple step-by-step for how to complete the daily activity log. So this is the training for your employees. If you decide that this is a good idea and you want them to do it in TouchStone, all you need to do is download this process and then link it to their job description, which I'm going to show you how to do, and then have them read the work plan. This is the training for how to do it. So this simply is explaining how to complete the custom form that's down here called Daily Time Logs. I'm just going to go to this custom form. So all this is done through the dashboard, and I'm going to show you exactly how that works. So this is just a simple form we put together for daily time logs. You can, if you don't want to do it every 2 hours like this, change all this, you just click right on this, and then you can go in and change this time to morning, noon, morning, evening, afternoon, or whatever makes sense for your employee's situation. So all this is editable. And this is just simply having them go on through their dashboard and just track, you know, what did you do between 8 and 10? What did you do between 10 and noon? What did you do between noon and 2? You can have them at 10 o'clock think back over the last 2 hours and list out what they did. You could have them do it every hour, every half an hour. I have an employee working from home that's doing this right now, and she just goes every 2 hours. And at 10 o'clock, we'll just write in what happened. This is really, I know it looks simple, it is simple, but it's, you know, it gives you some peace of mind, or at least some knowledge and accountability for, you know, what's happening while, you know, you're not looking each other in the eyes. So I'm going to go back here. Then we have this daily huddle. So this is, same idea. There's a couple work plans up here. So there's setting up the daily huddle. There's a step-by-step for this. It has a few expectations. And then there's a work plan on how to use this form down here and some suggestions on how the meeting would run. And then the heart of it is this document right here, which can be filled out on the dashboard. This kind of daily huddle and strategizing what you're going to do that day and what you did yesterday and what roadblocks came up in the way and what you're going to do the next day, filling it all out on a template like this is great for a person who's managing you. Or if you are the owner and you're having your managers do this, you don't have to call that person and say, what did you do today? How did it go? What happened here? What happened there? That you can run a report and take a look at it inside of TouchStone. And there's less of that micromanaging, which we all feel like we need to do when we can't look each other in the eyes. So remember that too, that filling out of this is not only helpful for the manager, it's also helpful for the person who's trying to understand what's happening throughout the entire company every day. So I'm going to go here to the org chart, and I'm going to link those two processes to this job description. And then I'm going to show you what it looks like to actually use them. So I'm going to click this position. So the steps would be download those two processes, then go to the job description that you want to link these to, go add existing process, hit the sub-function drop-down. Now this is how I'm looking over at the 4 key functions. And I believe it's in this sub-function. Then choose those two processes, and then hit save. So now I've just linked those two processes to this position. I can see them right here and here. Another way to do this would be to go to the process itself once you've downloaded it from the library. Go to this toolbar item here called Link to Job Description, and then link it from here. So for those processes that you would just download, if you want every employee in the company to be doing those, you can just make it a public process and then it'll appear on the dashboard. But if it's only for managers, like the daily huddle, go link to job description, and then you just click all the managerial positions. And I would leave this in strategic. So I'm clicking all the managerial positions. And now just from this view, I've linked it to all 4 of these. So either you can go to the job description, go and link it from there, or you can go here and in one fell swoop, link it to all the positions it needs to be linked to. Or again, the third option is just to make it public. But that I would only do that if it's going to be for every employee to be doing. So now if we go over here to the dashboard, because I linked those two processes to this position, and I have a control panel for this position, when I select that control panel, now I see these two processes. So this is what the control panel looks like. It's all the processes that are on the job description for the manager of marketing and sales. So when I went to the 4 functions and linked these two to that job description, they automatically will appear here in the control panel. Control panel, it's not just strategic and tactical like you see on the job description. It's you can make more succinct groups, work groups. So you see right here, I've got one for management, I've got one for finance, I have one for human resources. These kind of are similar to sub-functions in a way, but you can make groups by using this toolbar item here, create group, and then add groups, and then organize the processes into groups. So when an everyday employee comes to TouchStone, they're not going to be functions. They probably don't even have access to that. They probably won't even go to the org chart. They would just stick right here in their dashboard, click their dashboard. They would see all these processes, organize them into groups or categories, and then this is where they would come to access what they're accountable for doing. You can also make groups for time-driven groups. So these are subject groups. You could do like from 8 to 10 processes you're supposed to do. You can do things at the end of the month, end of the year. So you really want to just think about that position and decide what kind of groups make sense. So if I click this daily time log process here in the control panel, now I can see the work plan here. And again, this is just reminding me of how to do the time log. What I would most likely do is go right to the time log for that day. And these fields now are all live. You can put in the date, but the minute you save it, a date and time stamps it. So in a way, this field is kind of irrelevant. But if you want to keep that, they can type in the date. But here, they just put in what they did. What were their tasks? items that came up, phone calls that they received. So you can see this field will get wider and wider. And you might decide that you just want them to jot in notes about things that they did, or maybe you want some more elaborate explanation of how they went in and spent their day, and then there's a section for other notes. Again, you can go into this custom form through the 4 key functions and edit these fields and make them different if you choose. Then I just save this, and see right here, it's going to date and timestamp it. So it gives you the day of the week and then also the time it was done. This can be saved as something. In this daily time log, it doesn't make a whole lot of, I can't think of a save as that would be important. In other things that are completed, a save as could be an employee's name, it could be a customer's name. So anything it makes sense to save as, you can search the save as. So over here in the reports area, you can search for what things have been saved for. You can also search for date as well. So in this example, I think that matters. When you've saved something, or once you've saved something here on the dashboard, this print button also appears. So a person can go to this print button, and it just creates a PDF that looks like this. So these can be printed or downloaded somewhere else. There's no sense in exporting something and emailing it. That's not fully utilizing TouchStone, because once it's saved in TouchStone, the manager at the end of the day would go over here to reports and go to a management review report, choose the employee, or don't choose the employee and you'll see everybody's, put in the date range, so today's date, and then hit run report. And they would see a list of what those employees did that day. So they'd see the time log for the day for every employee. If you're using this for something different than time logs, this is where you can search the save as. So I'm just going to go to control panel here and show you that time log. What is today? It's the 9th. So I'm going to search 9th. And we'll do 10th, and then when you hit run report, then you see what was completed right down here. So this is what it looks like from the management side as well. You see that it shows you it's a time log here in the title, gives you the date that it was completed. And then if you select it for each of those employees, if you're running a management report, it takes you right to that particular time log. So I'm going to go back here to the dashboard. So that's just a bit of a glimpse into the use of the control panel. There's a lot more to this, and as we go through each session, I'm going to be talking and showing you more and more about the control panel. But as it stands right now, if you do have employees working from home, you can simply download those 2 processes, or any other of the processes. Like I showed someone 2 days ago how to use the customer complaint form that's in the library. It's in the Doing the Business library. It's called Customer Complaints. They had a system that they used to track their customer complaints in, but it was software and not a web tool, which is a problem for people if you can't go into your offices. So they started doing that in TouchStone, just a way to track what was going on with their employees. My point is there's a lot of other things that you might decide you need right now to use in the control panel. I have a few questions, but they're kind of lengthy, so I think I'm going to email. If I did not answer your question yet, then I'll contact you directly and answer it for you. I will answer this one since we have a few more minutes, though. Over here in the public area, someone's asking if processes here can be used. So the answer is yes. If you make something public, like all of these are, just like I selected here and went to that time log and saved it, these are done in the same way. So if an employee wants to access the employee handbook, or they want to, you want them to fill out a employee satisfaction survey, they go to it here on the dashboard. They call up the custom form. They can fill this form out, And this all came from the library, if anyone's interested in this particular document. Everything you see in my account or have seen has come from the process library, and you can download it and have it as well. So just because this is a public process, I'm still able to complete it, see, like I did just here. So when you make something public, nothing can be edited or changed here, content I mean, because you have to be able to go through the 4 key functions and do that. But here is stuff can be accessed and used, and then a manager can run a report and see all the employee satisfaction surveys that were done. Next week, we are going to be talking about the organization chart. The chart is really easy to use, so that's going to go pretty quickly, but the most important thing here is how to use this chart. Organization charts and job descriptions, the ones that are in TouchStone, I think are the best management tools that I have ever seen or used. And so I'm going to show you how to use this chart to develop and grow your business, to come up with efficiency plans, to analyze your current workforce and the results that they're getting, to plan for best scenarios with the growth or the shrinking of your business. So all of this can be done through this simple organization chart. So we're going to talk extensively about that. Really try to consider spending a little bit of time over the next hour or even tomorrow or the next day, work functions. So we just covered that today. Spend some time working on it. Clean up your process list. Get rid of things you're not using and you don't need. Organize things better. Fix titles that are messed up, that are sentences or that are caps or not caps. I think if anybody who thinks key 4 functions list spent an hour just cleaning it up, it would be, way better if it's disorganized. Delete library processes. Go to the library, download new processes that you want. So spend some time re-looking and reorganizing your 4 key functions, or if you're new to TouchStone, use this time to build out your 4 key functions. And remember, we're here to support you. Training is always free. We'll do one-on-one trainings for you, for your employees, in any situation that you need us to. So thanks for coming, everybody, and I'll talk to you next week.